Have you ever noticed those people who never post on social media? The ones whose profiles are either blank or frozen in time since 2014, yet they're fully present, observing, liking, maybe even scrolling quietly in the background. We live in a world that screams for attention, where silence has become louder than words. So what makes someone choose not to share their life online? What kind of mind hides behind that digital silence? Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of people who don't post on social media. It's not about being shy or secretive. It's something far deeper. These individuals think differently, process differently, and connect differently. Their quietness is not absence, it's a statement. They move through life with an inner calm that feels almost untouchable, while the world constantly looks outward, chasing reactions. These individuals find strength in the quiet space within themselves. They don't need to display their happiness to feel it. They don't need to announce their success to validate it. Their emotions, both light and heavy, are not performances to be witnessed, but experiences to be lived deeply. This is the essence of being self-contained, a mind that does not depend on others to confirm its worth. When they feel proud, they don't reach for a camera. They pause, breathe, and allow the moment to exist just for them. When life brings pain, they don't rush to post about it. They sit with it, understand it, and heal privately. It's not that they lack vulnerability. It's that they've learned not every emotion deserves an audience. They believe that some parts of the soul are sacred, and the more you expose them, the less meaning they carry. In their eyes, the truest moments are not the ones shared, but the ones felt. Their self-containment doesn't come from arrogance or distance. It comes from emotional maturity. They have learned the delicate balance between expression and preservation. In a world where people broadcast every mood, they find serenity in not having to explain themselves. They don't fear being unseen. They are comfortable being misunderstood. Their peace comes from an inner dialogue, a constant conversation with their thoughts, their emotions, and their truth. This quiet strength also makes them difficult to read. You won't find clues about their life scattered across captions or stories. Their happiness, their struggles, their dreams, all remain guarded behind the stillness of their presence. But if you truly look into their eyes, you'll sense something profound, a confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. They are not detached from the world. They're deeply connected to it, just in ways that don't require an audience. They carry an invisible kind of confidence, one that doesn't need applause to stay standing. Their validation comes from living in alignment with themselves. Every silence they keep, every story they don't tell is a choice rooted in self-awareness. While others seek reflection in the eyes of the crowd, they find it in their own. And in that private space, unseen and unshared, they discover the purest form of peace. They are the quiet watchers in a world that never stops talking. While everyone else rushes to post, to comment, to prove their presence, they stand still, not out of disinterest, but out of deep awareness. They see the way people craft illusions, how reality becomes a carefully edited version of itself. They understand that social media is not a mirror, but a stage, where the performance of happiness often hides the absence of it. And so they choose not to play. They choose to observe. When they scroll, they're not consuming content passively, they're analyzing. They notice the subtle patterns in human behavior, the timing of posts, the repetition of validation, seeking captions, the way people reshape their personalities for approval. They're students of human nature, quietly decoding the psychology behind every smile and every share. This is not cynicism, it's awareness. They see through the mask that most wear without realizing it. They understand that behind every perfect photo might lie exhaustion, insecurity, or loneliness, things that never make it into the frame. Their silence on social media is not emptiness, it's discernment. They know that the loudest voices are often the ones most desperate to be heard. They understand that constant posting doesn't always come from joy. Sometimes it comes from fear of being forgotten, ignored, or unseen. But they don't need to prove their existence online because they feel it deeply within themselves. They're not detached from the digital world. They've simply learned to navigate it with intention. They use social media differently, as an observer rather than a participant. They take in information but give little back because they value the power of privacy. They understand that attention is energy and they choose where to direct it carefully. Instead of chasing likes, they study what drives them. Instead of posting for approval, they reflect on why others need it. They look at trends not with excitement, but with curiosity, asking what emotional voids these collective behaviors are trying to fill. They move with quiet intelligence, aware that perception is a fragile thing. They don't want to be seen through the lens of an algorithm. They prefer to live in authenticity, away from the filters, away from the crowd. Their silence is not ignorance, it's depth. They see everything, understand much, but say little. And in that silence, they hold a kind of wisdom that no digital noise can ever match. They long for something real, something that cannot be captured through pixels or measured through numbers. For them, connection isn't about followers or likes, it's about presence. That rare feeling of being fully understood by another human being without the need for performance. When they speak, they crave eye contact, tone, energy, all the invisible layers of communication that social media strips away. They want to feel the pauses in a conversation, the warmth in a glance, the truth in a silence. That's where connection lives for them, in the raw, unfiltered spaces between words. They understand that online interaction is often shallow, transactional. A like may acknowledge your existence, but it doesn't touch your soul. A comment may flatter you, but it doesn't listen. They know how easy it is to confuse visibility with intimacy, attention with care, followers with friends. And so they pull back. They don't reject connection, they just want it in its truest form. They'd rather share a quiet coffee with one person who truly sees them than broadcast their life to 1,000 strangers who never will. Their silence on social media isn't isolation. It's refinement. They are filtering the noise, protecting the sanctity of their emotional energy. They know that real relationships are built through time and shared experience, not through double taps or story replies. They believe that genuine connection cannot exist without vulnerability, and vulnerability cannot survive in an environment built on performance. So, they keep their hearts guarded, offering pieces of themselves only to those who've earned the right to hold them. These individuals crave depth in a world that celebrates display. They seek conversations that explore the mind and spirit, not just surface-level highlights. They find satisfaction in understanding others, not in impressing them. And when they do connect, it's intense, meaningful, unforgettable, because they give all of themselves to that moment. They don't need to record it, post it, or prove it. They know that the truest moments lose their magic the moment they're exposed to the crowd. They are drawn to authenticity like a compass to truth. They look for the humanity behind the screen, the story beneath the caption. They may appear distant online, but in person, their presence feels magnetic, grounded, warm, real. For them, connection is sacred, not something to display, but something to protect. They don't post about it because they're too busy living it. They move through life with a quiet kind of power, one that comes from thinking for themselves. While the world bends and shifts according to trends, they remain centered, unshaken by what everyone else is doing. Their choices are not influenced by algorithms, social validation, or the latest wave of opinions. They listen, they observe, but their compass always points inward. They trust their thoughts, their intuition, their rhythm. That's psychological independence, the freedom to exist without needing to fit the mold. They understand how social media pulls people into conformity, how easily individuality dissolves when the crowd begins to dictate what's acceptable, attractive, or valuable. But they've stepped outside that loop. They don't crave belonging at the cost of authenticity. They would rather be misunderstood for their truth than celebrated for a version of themselves that isn't real. While others chase approval, they chase clarity. While others follow trends, they follow meaning. They know that self-worth built on attention is fragile, but self-worth built on integrity is unbreakable. This independence shows up in subtle ways. They don't post to prove progress. They don't share to gain praise. They work in silence, allowing their growth to happen privately, unseen, unfiltered. The satisfaction they feel comes not from acknowledgement, but from alignment. Knowing they are living according to their values. They've learned that peace doesn't come from being admired, but from being authentic. Every decision they make, every silence they keep, is a reflection of that inner freedom. They're not rebelling against society. They're simply detached from its pressure to perform. They see how people have become addicted to showing rather than being, and they want no part of that race. They understand that when your sense of identity depends on being seen, you become enslaved by visibility. But when it comes from within, you can exist freely, without needing to be validated or understood. Their life isn't a spectacle, it's a quiet journey of self-mastery. To them, independence is not about isolation, it's about clarity. It's about knowing who you are when no one's watching, when no one's applauding, when no one's liking your posts. It's about staying loyal to yourself in a world that constantly tempts you to trade authenticity for attention. They live by a simple truth. For freedom begins the moment you stop needing to be seen. They know that not everyone deserves access to their inner world. They've learned that vulnerability, when exposed too freely, loses its purity. Every post, every caption, every story shared online is an invitation. And they've grown careful about who they invite into their emotional space. It's not that they fear openness, it's that they value it. They believe that certain experiences should remain sacred, untouched by public interpretation. To them, privacy is not secrecy, it's emotional protection. It's the act of guarding one's truth in a world that thrives on opinions. They understand how easy it is to be misunderstood. A single word, taken out of context, can be twisted into something it was never meant to be. A personal confession can become entertainment for others. They've seen how people romanticize pain online, turning real struggles into content. They refuse to be part of that. Their silence is their boundary, a quiet shield that keeps their emotions safe from misjudgment. They choose to process privately, to heal privately, and to grow privately. The world doesn't need to witness every chapter of their life to validate that it's happening. There's power in that restraint. In knowing that not everything needs to be shared, they reclaim control over their narrative. They share only when it feels aligned, never out of pressure or impulse. Their stories, when told, carry intention. And because they reveal little, what they do share holds weight. It feels authentic, deliberate, and meaningful. Their words are rare, but they resonate deeply because they come from reflection, not reaction. They also understand the cost of exposure. When you constantly reveal yourself, you scatter your energy, allowing too many hands to touch your spirit. But when you stay selective, you keep your essence intact. They know that mystery keeps the soul grounded. It's not about hiding, it's about preserving. They allow people to see only what they choose to show, not because they're distant, but because they respect their emotional space. Their selective vulnerability is an act of self-respect. They know that the world doesn't need to know everything to understand them, and those who truly care will see beyond what's visible. They've realized that the deepest parts of themselves aren't meant for everyone's eyes. Some truths are too sacred to be displayed. And in that quiet protection, they find peace, dignity, and strength. At the center of their silence lies a deep sense of detachment, not from people, but from the need to be constantly perceived. They have learned to exist without broadcasting their every move, to live without the invisible pull of validation. This detachment isn't cold or distant. It's conscious, intentional, and freeing. They understand how easily the mind can become addicted to attention, how every like, every comment creates a small burst of pleasure that slowly rewires the brain to crave more. But they've stepped away from that loop. They don't measure their worth through engagement, they measure it through inner peace. They find beauty in simplicity. A quiet morning, a deep conversation, a moment of stillness, those are their treasures. They don't feel the urge to prove that they're living well, because they actually are living well. Their satisfaction doesn't come from being seen doing something. It comes from doing it with full presence. When they travel, they don't rush to post a picture. They breathe it in, feel the air, absorb the experience. Their memories live in their hearts, not on their timelines. This kind of detachment gives them balance. They don't fall into comparison traps because they're not constantly surrounded by curated perfection. They don't feel the pressure to perform because they've detached from the idea that their value depends on visibility. Their happiness is quiet, built on moments that no one else knows about. And in a world that glorifies exposure, that kind of contentment is rare. They understand that detachment doesn't mean disconnection. It means freedom. Freedom from the constant need to be noticed, from the silent anxiety of keeping up. They live with awareness, grounded in the present. They choose experiences over appearances, essence over aesthetics. Their detachment allows them to move lightly through life, less burdened by opinions, less influenced by noise. They know that when you stop needing to be seen, you start seeing more. You notice details others miss. You feel emotions more deeply. You live more authentically. Their detachment is not the absence of care. It's the presence of clarity. They care, but selectively. They share, but intentionally. And in that choice, they find a rare peace that social media can never offer. Their silence is not emptiness. It's fullness contained. They don't need the world to witness their life because they are too busy living it.